All right, we begin the news at 4:30 with your election coverage. Think of this as a special report for the next few minutes. We're going to be walking you through what you need to know about the Maryland primary.
That's right. One of the big races this election, Maryland's U.S. Senate seat. According to a new poll, the battle between Democratic Senate candidates Angela Alsobrooks and David Trone is extremely close. In fact, the poll was conducted by Emerson College. It shows Alsobrooks leading Trone with 42% of voters saying they would choose her. But she only leads by 1 percentage point, with her competitor, David Trone, picking up 41% of Democratic voters. And the poll also found that 12% of voters say they're undecided about who they plan to vote for.
So Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks' campaign has racked up some high-profile endorsements across the state and the country and has growing momentum.
She sat down with our Larry Miller to talk about the economy, crime, and former Governor Larry Hogan.
We are coming to what will be an important day for you in May, as well as the other candidates as well. How are you feeling?
Oh my gosh, you know what? I feel great. I've been to every part of the state, and you know, I believe more than ever in the people of Maryland. And I know for sure now that all of us want the same things for our families because I've heard it for myself.
Let's talk about the economy. That is one of the most pressing issues for voters when recently polled. Many of them citing issues and concerns about jobs, the availability of it, as well as inflation too. As a senator, what would you do regarding the economy?
The corporate tax rate is one that former President Donald Trump adjusted to benefit corporations. I'd be in favor of raising the corporate tax rate so that all of us are paying our fair share. I think we have to slow the growth of government spending. This is something that we have seen addressed on a bipartisan basis.
Maybe a few weeks ago, Prince George's County had 4 shootings over the weekend. I believe it was in Seat Pleasant. What do you say to those people that are concerned about the issue of crime and the impact that it's having on their ability to live comfortably?
I think people deserve to feel safe and to be safe everywhere that they are. Prince George's County's crime is down right now 13% overall. I know that jurisdictions across the state and across the nation are grappling with many of the issues that came about even during COVID, behavioral health. We've built here the first ever mental health and addictions care facility. I built as county executive, made investments also. We funded education at the highest levels we've ever seen in the county. We have to continue to fund education, fund mental health care and addictions care, find also constructive ways even for our young people to be engaged.
Data from the Prince George's County Police Department confirms total crime, which includes property and violent crime together, is down 13% compared to this same time last year. A closer look at the numbers show violent crime is up 11% and property crime is down 19%. Additionally, Alsobrooks wants to focus on guns, closing the so-called gun show loophole nationally, whereby private firearm sellers, including those at gun shows, are not required to conduct a federal background check of the buyers.
Polling over the campaign season has had you down kind of varying degrees against your Democratic challenger, Mr. Trone. What does that suggest about the campaign? What does that suggest about the message?
This is the greatest self-funded campaign we've ever seen in a Senate primary in U.S. history. So an onslaught of over $47 million spent in this race. But the good news is all of our polling shows that we are now in a statistical tie in this race with a large number of undecided voters, because what we know is that Marylanders are very sophisticated. The money will not determine the outcome of this race.
If Alsobrooks does clinch the nomination, she will likely go head-to-head against former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan.
How do you combat a candidate like Larry Hogan?
Larry Hogan is a member of a party that has policies that are inconsistent with the values of Marylanders. Again, where choice is concerned, we have to be concerned about the Supreme Court, the kind of justices that we would put there, these conservative justices that they would appoint, immigration reform, sensible gun legislation. These are all the things that, as a part of a Republican caucus, Larry Hogan would vote in line with them. So in the general election, I believe that I am the strongest candidate to take on Larry Hogan, where he would have to defend his record and I would be able to present my record.
Larry Miller, WUSA 9.
So perhaps you'll remember that Larry also sat down with Congressman David Trone.
That's right. They talked jobs, the economy, and a recent misstep during a congressional hearing.
You've had a pretty commanding lead for much of the campaign season, and one has to ask, is this because you have a tremendous amount of resources to get your message out there, or is it the message itself?
It's the message itself. I mean, most folks kind of forget that most self-funders don't win. people that win have a good message, they have good ideas, and they show up. I mean, that's probably my biggest strength. I show up.
There's a lot of voters that are undecided right now, and when we think about some of the key issues, crime safety is one of those top priorities for voters heading to the polls in May. Just this past weekend, we had 4 people shot in Prince George's County, 1 of which died. What do you do about the crime issue in the state? How do you also address it nationally as well?
Crime's a big issue. I mean, first of all, we have to have accountability. You know, when folks do a crime, there has to be accountability. But that being said, I mean, crime is underlying 2 major problems. We failed as an education system. We aren't getting everybody the education which gives them the tools to succeed in life. And that means we need full day 3-year-old, full day for pre-K. We need to go 3-year-olds to 14, free community college. The real key to crime is jobs. When someone gets a job, recidivism is 8%. If they don't have a job, it's 75%. With the 2.3 million folks incarcerated right now, if we just got them a job, we have 2 million less crimes.
Jobs is one thing, salary is another. If folks have a job, but their salaries are low and can't keep up with inflation, which is right now above 3%, that's tough. How do you address the salary issue?
A job is one thing, but a career is more importantly. And that's what we got to do is folks to get careers, folks that want full-time jobs so they can have health insurance, they can have sick leave, they can have retirement. It's got to lead to a career. So we've got to help get them the training, apprenticeships, things like that, to get those jobs. I
want to get to a congressional budget hearing which you were participating in, and you used the word jigaboo.
The word jigaboo is used as an offensive term to describe African Americans.
I understand the Washington Post reached out to you afterwards, where you later issued an apology. How many times had you used that word prior to that day?
Yeah, never in my life. And the hearing was about Republican taxes, and the fact that they don't understand that, you know, we can raise taxes on those big corporations. And I meant to use the word bugaboo, and I mispronounced it. Didn't even know I said it. The person I was talking to, she didn't know I even said it. And I came back to the office, found out I had made a mistake, used a terrible word, apologized immediately, and I want to apologize again.
Why you and why not Angela Alsobrooks?
It's just a matter of who is pulling the strings. I pull my own strings. You know, I don't take money as my opponent does from Exxon. Exxon's not a charity. Exxon's not here for our environment. And I'm willing to put my money that I worked hard. I started with nothing, started with way less than my opponent, way less. Then I built something. So now I've got a chance to change this country in a lot of really good ways, a lot of really good stuff. And that's why I do this.
Larry Miller, WUSA 9.
Okay, so polls show that former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan is in the best position to win the Republican nomination for Maryland's open Senate seat. In fact, a lot of the campaigning, as you've heard on the Democratic side between Trone and Alsobrooks, is which of them are more likely to beat Hogan in a head-to-head matchup. Now, Hogan's last-minute entry into this race surprised a lot of political pundits because they view it as an uphill battle in a state where Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1. We talked a bit about that when I met up with Hogan on the campaign trail last month.
How are you? Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
He's shaking hands and searching for votes after a lot of encouragement from his wife and some big-name Republicans like former President George W. Bush.
He said basically, you know, I think you have an important voice for the party and the country, and even if you're not looking for a job to be a senator, that we need you to. That it's important for you to try to be a part of the solution.
So then, what is it about your voice that he found to be important?
I think because I'm trying to get my party back on the right track and get back to a bigger tent party with a more positive, hopeful message that can appeal to more people.
Recent polling shows Hogan maintains his popularity, but he faces challenges now in this race he didn't face as governor. Maryland likes Larry Hogan. Marylanders by far do not want a Senate Republican majority. So
right.
How do you convince Democrats that a Senate Republican majority is in their interest?
There are people that really think I did a great job as governor. They really like me, but they're trying to reconcile that. But I'm pretty sure the bluest state in America is not going to be the deciding factor. I think there's, you know, a great deal of certainty that the Republicans are going to have a majority, and I think having a reasonable, sensible voice that's making a difference in that caucus is probably going to be more effective for them than some random freshman Democrat.
Okay, so one thing working against Hogan here by the time he gets to the general election, I want to show you this graph here from Pew Research. It might not make a lot of sense, but you see where this schism, where it sort of opens up like that. This is happening much less these days, where a state votes for a president of one party, but a senator of a different party. Remember, Hogan is a Republican, Maryland, a deeply Democratic state, voted for Biden the last time. Of course, certainly looking like that's going to happen again. So I want you to look here at both times that Donald Trump was on the ballot, right? In 2016, right? So it didn't happen then at all. And it only happened once in 2020, where a state elected a senator of one party, a president of a different party, and that was Susan Collins in Maine.
The spending spree continues in the race for Maryland's open Senate seat. Maryland Congressman David Trone is putting a ton of his own money into the campaign to try and beat Prince George's County Executive Angela Alsobrooks for the Democratic nomination.
The latest campaign finance data reveals a staggering financial disparity between the two. Our chief investigative reporter Eric Flack first reported on that issue.
That's right. And with in-person early voting ending in Maryland, we're about to see if Trone's investment pays off.
So how much does money matter in political campaigns? In Maryland's Democratic primary race for the U.S. Senate, we're about to find out. A WUSA 9 analysis of campaign finance data reveals David Trone's run for Maryland's open U.S. Senate seat has been fueled by a campaign war chest nearly 10 times bigger than challenger Angela Alsobrooks. The most recent federal campaign finance data shows Trone has spent a whopping $51.4 million on the primary. Alsobrooks has spent $5.8 million. That's a difference of more than $45 million. Trone, who got rich as co-founder of the national chain Total Wine & More, is primarily self-funding his campaign. Alsobrooks is running on grassroots campaign donations and funding from political action committees or PACs. When I spoke with Alsobrooks in March, she said the lopsided finances have impacted how she's run a race.
We didn't have the money to go up on air last year, so we had to plan it and to be careful to make sure we're communicating at a time where people are listening and receiving the messages. We've seen the results have been tremendous.
Alsobrooks has upped her spending in recent months, hitting local TV with a number of different campaign ads. In March, Trone's campaign declined an on-camera interview, but wrote in a statement Trone's decision to self-fund his campaign gives him the independence to listen to the people of Maryland, not special interests. April polling data has Trone with a comfortable margin heading into this month's primary. Eric Flack, WUSA 9.
If you're wondering, former Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, who's vying for the Republican Senate nomination against 6 others, has spent just over $1 million on his campaign so far.
Now, our team has put together voting guides for Maryland, Virginia, and West Virginia. It's got previews of who's on the ballot and what issues you'll vote on. You can check it out right now at WUSA9.com or just text the word VOTE to 202-895-5599. We'll text you back with a link to all the information you need.